Are we on the advent of another new trend of trying to squeeze as many dynamic drivers into a chassis? Today we will be talking about the Binary Acoustics DynaQuattro, which is one of these type of earphones, except that one of the many drivers is not really a driver, it's actually a passive radiator. What's the difference? They're all round anyways. Welcome to the Superchunk Show. Also, this is the first video where I will feature a new ranking format, so do let me know what you think about it in the comments below. The packaging on the DynaQuattro takes inspiration from watchmaking and other clockwork elements, as the box heavily features this motif. At the back of the box, you get a graph showing how the DynaQuattro sounds, as well as some specifications which we will go into more detail later. Opening the box, you see the earphones floating on a sea of foam along with a cable. A box containing two sets of ear tips is provided as well. It's always a nice touch to include a box to carry ear tips. I am a clumsy person, so without these, you can be assured that I will lose all of my ear tips, and it has happened before. So if it happened to you, best of luck. Below the first layer, you get a off-brand Pelican case, which really reminds me of the days when Westone used to include one as well, heck, albeit a little lot smaller. These cases are nice as they are quite tough. The original is waterproof, and just for fun, I'll test if the off-brand one is as well because I can. I also hope that it is microwave safe. This is a fresh off-brand Pelican case, and if it were able to do what it's supposed to do, that'll be great. So I am going to put it through its test. So you can see my handy dandy tap over here. This will be spouting water into this thing. Let's try it. It's there. There we go. You need to get it very nice and wet. Very nice and wet. So there's paper inside, right? That's the instruction manual. If the manual is wet in any case and manner, this thing kind of failed. I hope it passed. Looks like inside is pretty dry, so now I'm gonna open it up and we will see whether it survived the test or not. Hey, that's quite a good job. It's completely dry on the inside. 5 stars for this off-brand Pelican case. Next up, we're gonna test the microwave machine. So this is the handy dandy microwave machine. We are gonna put this through the torture test. Let's see how it fares. Okay, it's done now, let's see. Still in one piece. Okay, I don't recommend doing this, so please don't do this at home, kids. Apart from that, you also get a 3.5 and 4.4mm interchangeable plugs should you switch up your termination. Build quality. The DynaQuattro is largely made from resin, and it is the sort of finish that you should be quite familiar with if you have seen a Moondrop variation. This is a matte 3D printed chassis that kind of lets you see what is going on inside, but not really. The chassis feels quite sturdy and full. Moving on to the faceplate, this is machined and anodized aluminum with a similar gear motif to the box on it. Because of this, the DynaQuattro looks quite iconic despite having a more generic custom universal shape. There is just something to this gear motif. Also, the machine parts are quite deep and they are basically filled black, giving it more depth to the overall appearance. One thing that I need to point out is that this might be a point of contention for some as the nozzle has no lip, but it is larger than normal. So normal size ear tips will grip on these quite tightly, but because it does not have a lip, it still might fall off, so it's one of those things. The DynaQuattro uses a 2-pin termination, so you can swap out the cables pretty easily if you want. The cable is made from silver-plated oxygen-free copper and has aesthetics that match well with the DynaQuattro. I like the sandy brown color. Earlier I mentioned a 3.5mm and 4.4mm interchangeable plugs is included as well. Now, they level up this termination as it is now locking, which is a whole lot better than friction-based ones. Now let's dive into the chassis of the DynaQuattro. This IM is quite interesting as it is the second IM that features multiple dynamic drivers inside it in a short time. The DynaQuattro features 3 dynamic drivers, a 10mm, 8mm and 6.8mm, as well as one passive radiator. They also utilize a 3-way crossover, which in this instance would mean that each driver will be doing its own thing without any overlaps. Furthermore, the addition of the passive radiator makes a subtle change to the tone by introducing more resonance, giving the impression of more air in the signature. Sound. The DynaQuattro features a V-shaped signature rendered through 3 dynamic drivers and 1 passive radiator, creating a rather interesting tonal color. In the market these days, it is very common to hear this sort of signature rendered via hybrid designs. Usually one dynamic driver plus a few balanced armature, but I found that tonally this creates a different sort of rendering, as there is a difference between how dynamic drivers and balanced armatures render music. The DynaQuattro here is more cohesive in terms of tonal color, as it is an all dynamic driver set. I'm happy to add that when it comes to time alignment, the DynaQuattro, despite having multiple drivers, still does a pretty good job. For this review, the DynaQuattro was driven by either a Lotto Paul Gold Touch or Luxury and Precision W4. Next, let's talk about bass. The DynaQuattro renders bass quite in line with the norm of 2024, featuring a linear transition from sub-bass to mid-bass. Sub-bass has good weight and makes up the bulk of what you get in the bass region. It enables the DynaQuattro to maintain a very strong fundamental tone for other frequency bands to build upon. The Passive Radiator here helps as well, creating a sort of halo or resonance to give you the impression of a larger bass tone. Mid-bass isn't as emphasized here, but it isn't deliberately scooped out either, ensuring you still have good weight going into the mid-range. There are still good defined punches here, enabling music to be more engaging to listen to. Dynamics on the DynaQuattro are pretty enchanting. This complements modern recordings, which tends to sound compressed and unnatural. The DynaQuattro injects naturalness into the overall tone. Resolution here is also good on the whole, as you can hear the grooves and bass guitars really clearly. Just one thing to add, the DynaQuattro are not bass head class IEMs, so if you're expecting that, I think you should look towards other IEMs out there. Mid-range, when it comes to normal hybrid IEMs, this is a minor pet peeve of mine, but with mids rendered by balanced armatures, it takes me out of the cohesiveness in terms of sound. The DynaQuattro, on the other hand, keeps the tonal color cohesive with the use of a dynamic driver for mid-range. It sounds like a normal extension from the bass and keeps the overall tonal color pretty consistent. The tonal weight on the DynaQuattro is natural, which is quite unexpected for me, and I enjoy it being natural. Vocals have good clarity, and when it comes to resolution, it delivers a strong performance. When listening to micro details, I'm happy to say that DynaQuattro delivers an above average performance. Instruments here also have good separation, helped by the good levels of resolution. Next up, treble. Treble is balanced nicely in context with the mids and bass. It isn't particularly bright or elevated, but maintains a balanced approach. It renders treble in a way that it just does its job without much fuss or flashiness. As such, no sibilance was detected by me, as it was smooth as well. There is a moderate amount of air, creating a good sonicascape. Soundstage. When it comes to width and height, on the whole, a respectable performance on the DynaQuattro. The sound is considerably big and tall due to the nice level of dynamics on offer. Depth and positioning, good as well from the admirable levels of dynamics. Positioning is aided by the good levels of clarity for you to pinpoint instruments. Of course, a review is meaningless if you do not have comparison. So firstly, comparing it to the SIMGOT EA1000. The SIMGOT EA1000 sits in a similar price bracket to the DynaQuattro and also uses a passive radiator in its tone, which brings up similarities to the halation or resonance of tone with the DynaQuattro. The EA1000 features one dynamic driver plus one passive radiator, and on the whole is more coherent than the DynaQuattro, but that is pretty much expected because most of it is being generated by one dynamic driver. The EA1000 features a V-shaped signature as well, but there is a slight emphasis on the upper mids. I found that the EA1000 to be a bit more resolving compared to the DynaQuattro. The DynaQuattro, on the other hand, is a little bit more polite sounding and maintains a glorious dynamic driver tonal color paired with very nice dynamics. Although not as resolving as the EA1000, it is more polite sounding and should appeal to many. Next up, versus the ZiiGaat Arete. The ZiiGaat Arete is a hybrid IEM that features one dynamic driver plus 4 balanced armatures. Tonally, it isn't as cohesive as the DynaQuattro, which features an all-dynamic driver build. The Arete is tuned a little differently from the DynaQuattro, being warmer sounding by comparison. Dynamics are pretty good on the Arete as well. Comparing the two, the Arete is warmer, and if you mainly listen to vocals, I think the Arete will charm you with the warmth in vocals. The DynaQuattro, on the other hand, is more natural sounding and has about the same amount of details on offer as the Arete. Which to pick up is really down to your preference. And I'm including one more earphone on comparison in today's video versus the 7Hz 5. These are priced in a bracket below the DynaQuattro, but the interesting thing about the 5s is that it has 5 dynamic drivers. Normally they are coherent like the DynaQuattro, but the 5 have a completely different character than the DynaQuattro. They have a warmer, fuller character by comparison and have a sound that is different from the Meta, and I really like that. The 5s have a meatier mid-bass and mid-section compared to the DynaQuattro. If I want to seriously listen to the music, I will still pick the DynaQuattro. If I want to watch movies or have boom boom bass, then the 5s. Next up, some things that I like and dislike about the DynaQuattro. I like that the DynaQuattro is largely tonally cohesive sounding and has very lovely dynamics. Accessory-wise, the reintroduction of a off-brand Pelican case is a nice touch, and if you are a very rough handler, it offers you enough protection when you bang your earphones around. What I do not like about the DynaQuattro would be the huge nozzle. I think that it's a little bit too big, that's what she said. Lipless nozzles are not very fun when it comes to tip swap, as I hate it when the ear tip slips out. Also, that's what she said. Next up, ratings. So this is the first time I am introducing my new rating system. It should be pretty self-explanatory. Packaging on the DynaQuattro is pretty cool for its asking price. It was nice that they reintroduced the off-brand Pelican case. When it comes to bass, the DynaQuattro renders it in a largely satisfying manner, deserving a solid 8. The mid-range is clean with good resolution and natural sound. I just wish for it to have a tad bit more micro details. Solid 7. Treble is present but not demanding the most of your attention and does its job well. Moderately airy as well. So another solid 7. Resolution is quite lovely. As mentioned, I wish for just a tad bit more micro details, a strong 7.5. Soundstage, overall a really rather good performance, 7. Overall, the DynaQuattro gets an enjoyment factor of A, which is great. I've included a link to my IEM rankings in the links down below, so do check it out and it will be updated more regularly than my graphs. And finally, in conclusion, yeah, I think this is a nice one from Binary. Totally pretty meta, and they are leveraging on the taste in the market at the moment. I think that they did quite well. Anyways, if you like today's episode of the Superchunk Super Audio Show, please kindly drop a like and subscribe right here down below. It helped me out a bunch. Also, do let me know what you think about the new rating system. It is brand new. The link is below, so do check that out. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys soon.